Today, a farm in South Africa, it is damn hard work and still to be sustainable. That's why I, as a farmer, need every little bit of technology to survive in tough times and to make plans and to be complete against the import of cheap products from overseas. But this technology must be also affordable. But luckily for you, you have the best farmers in South Africa who can do it. Everything on my slide shows today is on my farm. So what is technology on my farm today? It's not only computers and software, it's also in the seeds like the GM and maize, sunflowers, fertilizers like Omnia we have today where they develop a product like Baxtem, a biochemical who helps with the microorganisms in the soil. In the last 3 years, the results showing 300 Rand per hectare net profit. It's also in tractors where the engines and the gearboxes talk to each other and decided which power to use. It's actually cutting the farmer out. You feel simple today to have this technology in the tractors. I will speak a little later about the combines, the crop sprayers, and the planter. Even the equipment today, you need the newest technology on that. Livestock equipment, like the previous speaker talked about, the RFID system, I will come to that. And also the apps we have where you can see what is happening if you look on your cell phone. Where's your tractor, your combine, what's it doing? When it's due for a service, you don't have to go to that equipment to see what is going on. Beautiful technology we have on the farm, but it costs money. Just remember that also. When I'm buying a farm or renting a farm, the first thing I do is to determine what is the soil potential. Because if you can't measure, then you don't know what to do. So every hectare on that farm is being drilled to a certain depth and to see what is the potential and what you can do with that soil. And out of that, there's a few maps coming out of that results you're doing. And there's an example of the type of soil on that farm. And out of that, there's also a few maps coming out of that, where you can see on this one's what is the dry land potential for maize in a normal year. And there's 3 areas you don't want to plant if it's a dry year. You will lose money because it costs me 10,000 Rand per hectare to plant today. So you want to cut that out and put it maybe under grass or just leave it open. Another map is coming out of that soil potential is the water holding capacity of the soil to see if you can let it rest for a year to lower your risk or to produce. But in difficult years, you don't want to plant in that areas. If you have a dry year, you will lose all your money. That's why precision farming is so important. That areas shows you that is the good areas where you can take risk and it will every time give you a good yield. Chemical status on my farm, we do it every 3 years. Most of the farmers every 4 years. But most of the farmers in South Africa still just walk through a land like that dots. Took a sample, put it in one bag, mix it, take a common sample, just one sample, and send it to a laboratory. We do it on every hectare or half a hectare. And then we're looking for that microelements and see what's wrong with that soil. And I'm going to concentrate just quickly on 2 of that, the pH, the acidity of the soil, and the phosphates. There's a map of the pH of that soil. Now you can see there, the average of that farm is 5.1. That's actually good. We wanted between 5 to 6. So if you just walk through the land and take one common sample, you think you are right, but you're not right. If you do precision farming, that areas are above normal. But that area needs to be addressed. So that's why we do precision farming. So then we decide what's the problem there. And we see there's some lime we must apply there to correct that areas. And there's a map of calcite lime we apply to that areas. The red color is 1 ton a hectare, the light green is 2 tons a hectare, and the dark green is 3 tons a hectare lime we apply. And also on that same farm, some different areas need another type of lime, green top, It is gypsum mixed with dolomite. It's a 80-20%. And then we go and correct that areas with a lime or a fertilizer spreader. And you can see on the right-hand photo in the back, there's a hydraulic motor, variable, controlled by the tractor with a controller to speed up or speed down and to apply the right amount of lime to that problem areas. Also with the phosphates, 24 is maybe all right, but we wanted about 30. Phosphate is a very expensive product, so you must be very careful with that. So we're going to address only the problems. That red area there, the blue, green, and purple area is above normal. So all the areas with the green, blue, and purple, you don't want to address that. You just want to address the yellow and the orange area. So you move where there's no problem, the phosphates to the areas where there's problem, just to get a better yield. There's a map of the fertilizer we can apply on that farm. You will see the red areas is about 210 kilograms a hectare, and the light green is about 280 kilograms a hectare, and the dark green, I think, is more than 360. In 2006, I bought that planter for 1.1 million. And I do a few changes. At the end, it cost me 1.4 million. And the most farmers in my area said, that guy is crazy. He came to the farm when he's 30 years old and he thinks he's an engineer. He knows what he's doing. He's going to see his ass. Totally. That time, a planter cost was about 150,000 rand. But that was a fixed planter with a fixed rate. What this planter can do, it can hold 10 tons of fertilizer, 4 bins, 2.5 tons, and I can do 4 different types of products. With a GPS position to tell the tractor where it is, monitor inside the tractor, and controllers, and a pump underneath of every tank to apply the right, correct fertilizer to correct the problems on the land while I plant. That was in 2006. These days, a precision planter, if you look on the top left photo, that's the monitors you have in the tractor. The bottom photo, that's all the hydraulic pipes and wiring and air pipes you have on this planter. If you look at the row unit, you have the seed unit on top. It's controlled by a step motor. It can individually turn faster, slower, shut off, and it can show you the plant population while it's planting if it's correctly. By touch of a button, you can pull up the furrow openers or the cutting wheels in front. You can apply pressure on that. And you can apply constant pressure on the row unit for even germination of that row unit. So there's a lot of things you can do to a seeder today. That's how the advance of the technology is today. That's what some of the monitors inside the tractor. And there you can see the beautiful stand of the maize and how it was been cut off precisely not to overplant, because seeds are also expensive. Some of the most important equipment on my farm is a sprayer, and I will concentrate on that. The previous speaker of John Deere was speaking about this also. You have a boom about 30 meters long with 60 of that solenoid sprayers. It's individual controlled. Oh, there's a lot of smoke coming from this back. Controlled by the computer. That sprayer, that solenoid, can spray individual more or less. It can shut down. It can increase the drop size for wind speed and not, and make it less. And if you go into spraying contours with turns, like the previous speaker mentioned, the outside, it will spray more for not to underspray, and the inside spraying less, not for overspraying, to protect your crops. And chemicals are also expensive. That's why you need this precision equipment. There's some soils. Early this year, we took the leaf samples before flowering stage. We sent the leaves to Omniaf. They call it OmniSub, foliar interpretation, and then we can see the shortage in that plant. And at this stage, it showed there was a shortage in calcium and magnesium. So we only went back and correct that 2 elements. Instead of going back to a chemical company and buy a lot of things which cost you a lot of money. If you can't measure, you don't know what you will apply, for what you apply. If you put extra copper on that soyas, and it have enough copper already, then you will have less yield on that soyas. So you must be very careful what you apply to your crops. The combine, there's a lot of electronics also in this combine, but what the things I want to give attention to is a yield monitor, records the whole time, and the moisture monitor. And at the end of the year, you take that yield map, you take your soil map, your chemical map, your fertilizer map, and you put it in the software program, and you see and check all the corrections you did. Was it the right step to do? Did you make money? You must measure to see what you did wrong or right. Here's interesting, the next slide. Very interesting thing is also a yield monitor. We was harvesting soyas, and I bought a new header, flexible header. It's following the contours of the land. When it arrived on the farm, we disconnect the old one. It is on the left-hand side. We hooked up the new one, and there was a half-ton difference in yield. Only with new equipment technology. Now, half-ton doesn't sound much. If you take soya's price about 5,000 rand a hectare, half-ton is 2,500 rand a hectare. On 1,000 hectares, it's 2.5 million rand, and that time that header cost me 410,000 rand. If I didn't have a yield map, I wouldn't notice the difference. Conservation agriculture, Chris was talking about a little bit about that. Why did I change? When I started farming, I saw the wind and water erosion was severe. Degradation of my soil, climate change. Everybody's talking about climate change these days, and it's not sustainable. You're all familiar with that photos in 2014. It was in the Rapport newspaper. But last year it was the same situation. In the West Free State, in my area, that's a common sight we see in August to November. All the topsoil is sitting in the 10 centimeters of our soil, fertile soil, and it's blowing away. Water erosion, that's a common sight if we have a lot of rain, washing away our beautiful soil. This trial was done by IRC. I was involved with that, with Andre Nel at Potchefstroom. The left-hand photo on top was conventional versus conservation on the right-hand side. And when there was a lot of rain, instant rain, we went there and the water was running out of the conventional, but conservation, the water was in the soil, not running away. And the same happened later that year where the maize was bigger in the same trial. When I started farming, the blue area, the conventional, that was all the steps I'd done before I was finished, 10 steps. When I went to conservation agriculture, it was 5 steps. But if you look on the blue side, to do a disc action or a chisel action or a cultivate action, the diesel I use per hectare is between 6 liters per hectare to 20 liters per hectare. If you go to the spray unit on the right-hand side, I use 0.6 liter diesel per hectare. I can do 10 sprays before for one action on the left-hand side. That's how much energy we used on conventional. One of my tractors on conventional is doing 1,500 hours per year. Now we don't even get to a service of 250 hours. We start in 2014 with one of the most difficult dry years in the Free State with cover crops. The dead ones there is however we did in the winter. And I phoned my manager and said, listen, start planting cover crops. He said, are you crazy? It is too hot The wind is very strong. It will dry out. I said plant. All the farmers who, that year Chris was very late. The farmers plant in the end of December and January. All the farmers who tried to plant sunflowers and maize, there was nothing of that. They plant over again later that season. 3 weeks later, that was standing there. That's how our soil changing. Few months later, that was the crop standing there, the cover crop. Then we start to implement the livestock on our cover crops. Also, not to help to build the soil, but to get money from that. Livestock advantage to CH. It's mulching the plant material into the ground. The dung and urine fertilizers. Also, the saliva of the livestock is very good feed for the microorganisms in the soil. We didn't realize that, but now we do. We do high density grazing, mob grazing, mimic with livestock. We want to try to do the same as the Serengeti, where the livestock is moving, and then 1 year later we came back again, try to eat everything, even the bad grasses. That's a way we have built our grasslands again. Faster way to build organic matter with the livestock, and it's more sustainable. We can go through dry years better than with cash crops. After they finish, we roll it flat, and that was last year. And you can see that beautiful matter covering. We have material on the soil to protecting it from direct sunlight, from wind and water erosion. The difference in temperatures between open soil and that is about 16 degrees Celsius. If you don't think that's not high, in the western sand, we can get temperatures in that sandy soil up to 55 degrees Celsius. It's like you're baking a cake in that soil. Advantage of conservation agriculture is building organic matter carbon, the most important thing for our soil. Protects topsoil from wind and rain, building healthy soil for healthy plant roots, enhance biodiversity and microorganisms, provide living mulch and plant food, high water infiltration rate, and retains water, reduce impact of drought and floods, and reverses the desertification. The previous speaker was talking about this system. We have this system now 3 years on the farm. That's a tag we put in the ear of a sheep or in a cattle. When it gets into that machine, there's an antenna, detects the identification tags. It tells the monitor tells you what animal is in there, what's the history of that, and you tell that machine what to do, and that monitor tells that control box what to do. So what happens if we want to wean the lambs? We put the ewes and the lambs in a queue in front of this machine, and we tell this machine, put the ewes in camp number 1, put the lamb ewes in camp number 2, and in camp 3, 4, and 5, the ram lambs on different wages. And you just stand back, and this machine do it for you. And here you can see they're standing in the queue, then they come in, and that door opens for that ewe and tells it which way to go. Also with our feedlot system, we measure the weight of the feedlot every week, and you tell it if that lamb is not growing, put it in camp number 1. At the end of that week, you take that camp number 1 to the auction because you want to get rid of that, because that lamb is cost you money. Eat your feed, but it's not growing. We have lamb camps also on the farm. That one is 320 camps under roof. To feed that sheep in there took us a whole day, very labor intensive. Then I bought the automatic feeder system. Now it takes only 10 minutes to feed all that sheep automatically in that lamb camps. Outside is a silo with a scale and load cells, so we can measure the feed and see if we're wasting or we're making money or whatsoever. We also have this machine on the farm. If we're working with the sheep, I use maybe 10 to 15 laborers to do one day's work. If you turn the sheep around, do the hooves or whatsoever. And how only 2 guys is doing 1,000 sheep per day with that machine. For anti-theft, we use Farm Ranger product where you have this product underneath the sheep's neck. Beautiful software it's working with. You can set the alarm, which time to switch on and which time to switch off. It works with movement. Then you download the app on your phone. You will see there the one shows the battery 56%, then you know it's time to charge that unit. It holds about 3 months its capacity. But the signal where it was poor, so you have the risk to phone you will fail. So you must be aware you have better signal there. That monitor number 3, the battery was 100% and the signal was good, so you know that is fine. Monitor number 4 shows you the battery life is 67%. The signal is average, so it's still fine. Of monitor number 2, it shows you the history there, what happened quite that week, so you can check, did it phone in, was there alarms? And if you check that same monitor, the 2nd of February, 4 minutes past 11, it phoned me and started tracking. So I'm lying in bed, lazy, check the phone and see if that sheep is moving through a gate or through a fence. Then I know I must get up and go and look, there's a problem. If not, then I know it's a jackal, and the dog who's staying with that sheep will sort out that jackal, and I turn around and I sleep further. Thank you very much.